Back in 2015, Herpa gave us a model of this Airbus A330-200F. Where they did well and where they could have done better, we'll find out after the drop. And with that, hello and welcome to a new episode of Review, where we, as mentioned, will take a closer look at an Airbus A330-200F of Hong Kong Airlines cargo. At the front of the box we have a cutout so we can get a glimpse of the aircraft model inside, and on top of that we have the Hong Kong Airlines branding. On the back side of the box we have the typical Herpa box design of the time, which means we have a lovely image of the aircraft in real life, and we are provided with a web link where we supposedly can get more information. However, this web link does not work anymore, so the only thing of importance here is really that it is a limited edition. And here she is, the Airbus A330-200F in the current standard livery of Hong Kong Airlines or Hong Kong Airlines cargo. And you might say, hold on, haven't I seen this livery used with other airlines? And you're not wrong. The airline did have rather close ties to H&A Group. I do actually believe they at some point were the majority shareholders, but since then have dropped their share of the airline quite considerably. But still, many of the airlines that at some point or are owned by the H&A Aviation Group do all carry rather similar, if not identical, liveries, and it's the same case here with Hong Kong Airlines. So now that we have established the background for the livery, let's take a closer look at the aircraft model itself to see what it actually has to offer. And here on the vertical stabilizer we find the color scheme of Hong Kong Airlines, or maybe in reality of the H&A Aviation Group. Who knows? On the fuselage we then have the full registration code of the aircraft, the aircraft type specification, and towards the very tail of the aircraft a bit of detailing around the APU exhaust. At the front of the aircraft and across the fuselage we then have the logo of Hong Kong Airlines, the name of the airline written in Chinese language, which I believe is Mandarin Chinese, but I guess theoretically could also be Cantonese. I'm sure you will let me know in the comments section below. And of course then Hong Kong Airlines written out in English. Underneath that we have a logo, and that is branding Hong Kong as Asia's world city, and that's part of a marketing campaign for Hong Kong, which was originally launched in 2001. And then crucially, given that this is a freighter, we also find the main cargo hatch of the aircraft here at the front of the fuselage. And that leads us to the cockpit section itself, where I would say Herpa is doing well with the mold of the A330. They really have nailed that down. But of course it is a rather big letdown when we look at the print here. Not that the print quality isn't good, but just the amount of details. I mean, cockpit windows and window wipers just honestly isn't enough. But we can move on to the engine nacelles. They have been kept in this grey coloring and have the silver leading edge. So also here we don't find a plethora of printed details, to say the least. But the physical detailing, at least, that is actually quite nice with these engines, especially here when we look into the front of the engines, where we very nicely can see the engine fan blades. But if we move on from the engines and take a look at the wings, we can see here on the top side we have the name of the airline printed on in Chinese language on one side, and on the other side we find the full registration code of the aircraft, as well as the flap slats and spoilers that have been carved out rather nicely, and we also have some different shades of grey for additional detailing. The full registration code we then again find on the underside alongside some nice physical detailing, and also here on the other side again the name of the airline in Chinese language. And of course we also have winglets on these aircraft, which also do have part of the color scheme, and Herpa has actually done rather well in adding that as well here in the print. From the wings we can move on to the landing gear, and that is the standard landing gear that Herpa uses for all their Airbus A330 aircraft models, which is a good thing because it looks very nice. And what looks especially nice on the A330-200 freighter from Herpa Wings is the reinforced front landing gear. Here Herpa is really doing a great job in replicating that. And then last but not least we do also have a few more cargo doors to the secondary cargo hold here at the back of the aircraft and here at the front of the aircraft. So there we have it, the Airbus A330-200F in the current standard livery of Hong Kong Airlines or Hong Kong Airlines cargo from Herpa Wings in scale 1 to 500. And what can we say about this aircraft model? Of course, Herpa could and should have added many more details to this aircraft model, but the topic of cheapskating their customers is of course not a new one, and we have covered it extensively here on the channel. But we do actually have to critique the print quality of this aircraft model, because I don't think they have gotten the colors quite right. Firstly, on the engines. The aircraft today is of course flying around with white engines, but at the time they did actually have a light grey tone, however not nearly as dark as we see it here on the aircraft model. And when we look at the vertical stabilizer, well, the yellow line does seem to be more golden and should be a bright yellow. So also here I think Herpa hasn't quite gotten their colors right. Where I think Herpa Wings succeeds with this aircraft model is the physical detailing. Firstly, because they have really nailed down the mold for the A330 in my opinion, and where they're also doing exceptionally well is in replicating the reinforced front landing gear of the 200F. So except for the unusual fact that Herpa didn't quite get the colors right, it is a rather standard Herpa Wings model. And if you can live with that, then I would say yes, absolutely, it is worth having in one's collection. Now with that, we have reached the end of today's episode. If you have enjoyed this video, why not leave a like? That would be very nice. And of course, if you are new around here, why not hit subscribe? That would be absolutely awesome. With that, I'd like to say thank you very much for watching. Hope to see you soon again. I'm checking out, and bye.